For the first time ever, China has overtaken the US as the world's #1 box office market. While 2020 will go down in the history books as an anomaly in many industries, one of the biggest entertainment markets hit was the humble cinema. With most cinemas around the world still shut, China's market has performed a decent recovery, reopening back in late July after being closed for almost 180 days, including the lucrative Chinese New Year period. When cinemas did reopen, it took a few weeks before new movies started appearing, but once they did, the first big movie to be released ended up being the worldwide #1 movie for 2020. The Chinese market ended up securing just over 20 billion yuan, or $3 billion in 2020, the lowest since 2012, but higher than the 2.28 billion the US market ended on. Here are the top 10 highest grossing movies in China for 2020, courtesy of Chinese movie website M-Time. Released late in 2019 and also appearing in the 2019 top 10 movie list is this excellent Chinese thriller, a remake of the excellent Indian movie Drishyam. Sheep Without a Shepherd tells the story of a man and his family living in a Chinese community in Thailand. When Lee's older daughter Ping Ping is drugged and raped at a school camp by the son of a local politician and the police chief, he is forced to quickly enact a plan to protect his family and create a watertight alibi when his wife and daughter accidentally kill him. Using his vast knowledge of movies, he works out a way to hide all the evidence and evade detection, even as the police chief, played brilliantly by Joan Chen, and a local violent constable breathe down the family's neck. They know they killed him, they just can't prove it. Starring Xiao Yang, who usually does comedy movies, as Lee, Zhao Tan as his wife, and Hong Kong actor Philip Keung as the politician, this is an exciting cat and mouse thriller from first-time Malaysian director Sam Kwa. The only real problem with this movie is the ending, which is different from the Indian original due to Chinese film censorship, but it's still an enjoyable watch and proves that the Chinese can make interesting crime thrillers. A sequel has been announced, which follows the typical Hong Kong tradition of reuniting the cast and directors with a new storyline and characters, set to release in 2020. Released back in August, but never reaching the #1 spot due to another monster of a movie that was released around the same time, is this beautiful romantic science fiction drama film, starring one of the biggest heartthrobs in China right now, Li Hongqi as Lin, a man who recalls the story of his first love, a dancer named Xiao Chen. A watch bonds them together when a tragic accident results in her death, and a wish made upon the watch brings her back to life, but with a serious side effect. He loses several years of his life, and his existence is erased from people's memory. He sets about making Xiao Chen fall back in love with him, until tragedy strikes again, and he has to repeat the whole process again. Beautifully filmed and presented, using a series of flashbacks to fill in the gaps when an older Xiao Chen stumbles across Li's diary while searching his apartment for his medication. She discovers a love story that's about her, full of vivid details, but she can't remember any of them. A real tearjerker of a film, this movie is well worth a watch. Another movie that was originally released in 2019. This movie spent the first 2 weeks of 2020 as the #1 film in the Chinese box office. This entertaining drama comedy movie has a big cast including the beautiful Zifeng Zhang, the versatile He Wei-yu, action star Wallace Chung, and Hong Kong actor William Chan from Lord 2 and the upcoming 2021 Yin Yang Master movie. Adoring follows the story of 6 different groups of people and their pets. To the usual dogs and cats, to one very unique couple with a pet pig. This movie shows how these different groups of people interact with their pets. From a trained guide dog used to help a blind student, to an abandoned dog who lives in an apartment complex befriended by a food delivery man, and a fussy cat that's secretly adored by the father who tells his daughter he just wants it out of the house. This movie is ideal for people who love their pets and treat them like extensions of the family, not just animals. Exploding into Chinese cinemas in late November and worldwide in early December is this awesome action thriller Chinese Hong Kong co-production from the director responsible for writing Donnie Yen's smash hits Kung Fu Jungle and Painted Skin. Caught in Time is based very loosely on the life of one of China's most violent criminals, responsible for close to a dozen large-scale robberies that resulted in the death of over 20 people until he was eventually caught and executed. Hong Kong superstar Daniel Wu stars as the criminal Jiang Ziya, with Wang Chen-yen, who is in another movie on this list, starring as the detective who eventually catches him. Also starring Jessie Lee and Michelle Wai, this movie keeps its runtime nice and short at 90 minutes, packing it full of action that'll have you on the edge of your seat. I love this movie so much, I gave it 2 thumbs up. If you're a fan of Hong Kong gangster films, then you must check this out. Another movie that exploded into Chinese cinema, and indeed worldwide at the same time, on Christmas Eve was this thrilling and exciting sequel, in name only, to the 2017 original. Another Chinese-Hong Kong co-production, director of Part 1 Herman Yao and lead actor Andy Lau returned to explore another tale of Hong Kong's bomb disposal team. With more explosions and far more action than the first film, Yao and Lau turn up the dial to 11 as we follow Pun Xin-feng, a disgraced ex-EODB officer who gets caught up with a dark web terrorist group called Vendetta, who have plans involving the Hong Kong International Airport and a mini-nuke called Davy Crockett. The 2-hour runtime just flies by as the last 30 minutes has you on the edge of your seat, while Poon and his ex-colleagues race against time to deactivate the deadly nuke before it wreaks havoc for the citizens of Hong Kong. This movie is everything the first movie should have been, and is a very worthy entry into the crowded Hong Kong action thriller category. Veteran Hong Kong movie producer Peter Chan returned to the directing chair for the first time in 6 years to helm this biopic of Chinese volleyball legend Jenny Lung Ping, starring Gong Li as the older Lung Ping and Lung Ping's real-life daughter Lydia Bai as her younger self in the early 80s, with Huang Bo and Yu Chang Pen both playing her longtime friend Chen Zhonghe. This movie follows Ping and Chen when they first meet at a volleyball training camp in the 70s, and then leads to the 2008 Olympic Games when Chen's China team is defeated by Ping-coached USA team. We then follow Ping as she struggles to rebuild the Chinese national team, leading them back to ultimate success in Rio in 2016, with their remarkable comeback quarter-final game against the undefeated Brazilian team being the main highlight of the film. It's a movie that feels a little muddled at times, with it not sure whose story it wants to tell at certain points. Nonetheless, this movie burst into the #1 spot when it premiered in late September, delayed from its planned Chinese New Year release slot. Interestingly, this movie is China's official nomination for the foreign film category of the Academy Awards in 2021. One of 2 war movies on this list, The Sacrifice is a marvel of filmmaking. Created in just over 3 months, rushed for release in late October, and spending 4 weeks at #1, 3 directors took control of this epic film that's heavily inspired by the techniques used in American film Dunkirk. Based on the true story of the under-equipped and under-skilled Chinese People's Volunteer Army who needed to send their troops across a bridge to join up with Korean forces who were fighting against the Americans. This movie tells the tale from 3 perspectives: the American pilot who keeps destroying the bridge, the team who keeps repairing it, and the 2 men tasked with manning an anti-aircraft gun who are defending it. Starring the brilliant Wu Jing, the entertaining Jiang Ziya, who is also in 2 more movies on this list, and featuring a cameo from Deng Chao. This movie was a huge hit with the local patriotic audience who didn't mind the strong red themes in the film. While at times the film can drag along with the repetitive nature of its presentation and some spotty visual effects, this movie is a prime example of what can be done by a dedicated crew in a short amount of time. I might not have enjoyed the film as much as I should, but I respect how it was made. One of 2 movies on this list I haven't seen yet is this animation film about Jiang Ziya, one of the gods mentioned in the Feng Sheng series of stories and set in the same world as 2019's mega hit Ne Zha, which was from the same studio. This movie was another one set to originally release in Chinese New Year and was expected to earn as much, if not more, than the studio's previous movie Ne Zha. However, while it still made an impressive 1.6 billion yuan, it was beaten every week in the box office it was in release by the next movie on this list. And that movie is this one, My People, My Homeland. A comedy movie parodying the 2019 hit My People, My Country. This is the only other movie on this list I haven't seen yet, but I am interested in watching it. Produced by Jiang Ziya, My People My Homeland is a collection of 5 comedic short stories starring some of the biggest and well-known actors and directors in China. From the Huang Bo-led story about a man from a small village pretending to be an alien from a crashed UFO, also starring the 2 leads from Detective Chinatown, to the Shenten and Ma Li story of a couple obsessed with sunflowers, to a story about villagers who help their old school teacher recall a cherished memory, the only downside being they need to physically recreate everything. My People My Homeland holds the 2020 record in China for the biggest opening weekend, set during the National Day holiday in October, where it had some incredible competition from movies like Jiang Ziya and Jackie Chan's Vanguard. Not only is this movie the top Chinese movie of 2020, but it's also the worldwide #1 film, netting an impressive $461 million, 35 million more than US film Bad Boys for Life, the worldwide second-placed film. This movie spent 4 weeks at the top of the Chinese box office. Based on the incredible true story of a ragtag group of soldiers, deserters, and farmers who tasked themselves with defending a warehouse in Shanghai from Japanese invaders, the last building to fall during occupation. Coming in at just over 2.5 hours, this movie was directed by Hu Guan, one of the 3 directors of The Sacrifice, and stars Wang Qianyan and Zhang Yi, who, as you might remember, already have movies on this list. While the first hour of the movie is a bit of a mishmash of converging storylines, this is a very entertaining movie whose only other downside is the lack of character development of almost every character in the film. Nonetheless, it's still an excellent film and worthy of the #1 position. As you can see, this was an excellent and varied list of Chinese movies that made up their top 10 highest grossing films of 2020. Which ones have you seen and which ones did you enjoy? If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to press the like button and subscribe for future videos like this. Thank you for watching.